The night was colder than usual for October in Iowa. A sharp wind swept across the endless rows of corn, whispering through the dry stalks like 1,000 lost voices. It was just past midnight when the faint sound of crying broke the silence. Harold Jenkins, a local farmer in his late 50s, was driving home after checking on his cattle when his headlights caught something strange. A small bundle lying near the edge of the road, half hidden by the tall corn. He stopped the truck, heart pounding, and stepped out into the night. There, wrapped in a worn brown blanket, was a baby boy. His tiny fists trembled against the cold, his face red from crying. Harold froze, stunned by the sight. Then instinct took over. He picked up the baby, shielding him from the wind. "Hey there, little fella. Who left you out here?" he whispered, voice cracking. No one answered. The vast field around him was silent again, indifferent. By dawn, the police had arrived. The story spread through the small town of Havenbrook like wildfire. People came forward with questions, with theories, but no one knew anything. There was no note, no car tracks, no sign of a mother. Only that blanket, and the name Nathan embroidered faintly in one corner. Nathan grew up in a nearby orphanage, a cheerful old brick building run by kind but overworked caretakers. He was told his name came from that blanket, that maybe his mother had stitched it before leaving him behind. As a child, he often stared out the dormitory window, watching the cornfields sway in the wind, wondering if she ever thought about him. As the years passed, life hardened him. Nathan became quiet, withdrawn. At 18, he left the orphanage and found work at a small mechanic shop on the outskirts of town. Grease-stained hands, long hours, and silence. That was his world now. Every once in a while, when customers brought in old pickup trucks or dusty tractors, he'd find himself staring out again at the corn beyond the highway. It still whispered the same question it always had. Who am I? One evening, after closing the shop, Nathan sat alone at a diner, scrolling through local news on his cracked phone. He barely noticed the older woman watching him from the corner booth, a frail figure with a shawl and kind eyes. As she stood to leave, she hesitated, then approached his table. "You're Nathan Jenkins, aren't you?" she asked softly. He looked up, startled. "Yeah. How did you know?" She smiled faintly. "I knew Harold, the man who found you. He used to talk about you all the time." Nathan nodded, unsure what to say. "He passed away years ago." "I know," she said, placing a small envelope on the table. "He left something behind for you. He told me to give it to you when the time was right." Before Nathan could respond, she was already walking away. Inside the envelope was an old key and a folded piece of paper with only one line written on it. "The truth is written in the word." That night, Nathan couldn't sleep. He stared at the key, at the note, his mind racing. What did it mean? What word? The next morning, when he opened his front door to head to work, something made his heart stop. There, on the porch, was a weathered Bible. Its cover cracked, its pages yellowed with time. If you were Nathan, would you open that Bible or ignore it, thinking it was just a coincidence? Tell me in the comments what you would do. Nathan stood motionless on his porch, the morning light glinting off the cracked leather cover of the old Bible. He glanced around, expecting to see someone watching, but the street was empty. Just the faint hum of cicadas and the rustle of trees in the wind. He picked it up carefully, his fingers trembling. It was heavier than he expected. When he opened it, the faint smell of dust and age filled the air, like the scent of an attic that hadn't been opened in decades. Inside, there were handwritten notes in the margins, names underlined and verses circled in pencil. The handwriting was neat, almost delicate. On the very first page, a message was scrawled in faded blue ink. For Nathan, when the time comes, you'll understand. His chest tightened. He had never seen the handwriting before. It wasn't Harold's, and he had no other family that he knew of. He turned the pages slowly, his eyes scanning every line. Then he saw it, a small hand-drawn map, folded between the pages of the Gospel of John. It showed a winding road, a river, and a small cross marked near the edge of what looked like Havenbrook County. Beside it, in the same handwriting, were the words, "The truth will set you free," on John 8:32. The same verse from the note that came with the key. Nathan leaned back in his chair, heart pounding. This can't be real, he muttered. But deep down, something stirred, a quiet voice whispering that maybe, just maybe, he was meant to find this. That night he couldn't focus on anything else. He spread the map on his kitchen table, comparing it to an old road atlas he kept from his mechanic days. The location on the map pointed to an abandoned church about 30 miles west of Havenbrook, a place he'd heard old-timers mention, but no one had been there in years. By morning, Nathan had made up his mind. He packed a small bag, slipped the Bible and key inside, and set off in his old Chevy pickup. The gravel road stretched endlessly ahead, golden fields swaying on both sides. As he drove, his thoughts bounced between curiosity and fear. What if this led nowhere? What if someone was playing with him? When he finally reached the area, the road turned rough and narrow. The church appeared on a hill, small, wooden, with a collapsing steeple that leaned slightly to the side. Its windows were broken and vines climbed the weathered walls. Nathan parked and stepped out, his boots crunching on the gravel. The air was still, heavy with the smell of dust and old pine. He hesitated at the door, then pushed it open. Inside, sunlight filtered through cracks in the roof, casting beams across the pews. Everything was coated in a thin layer of ash and dust. The silence was so deep, it felt sacred, like time itself had stopped here. Nathan walked slowly toward the altar. There on the wall hung a faded painting of a cross. Below it stood an old wooden chest with a rusty lock. His hand went to his pocket. The key. He knelt, inserted it, and turned. The lock clicked open. Inside were several old letters, a silver locket and a small notebook wrapped in cloth. The top letter was addressed to him. To my son, Nathan. His breath caught. He sat back, staring at it. For years he had dreamed of hearing those words, but never like this. He unfolded the letter, hands shaking. The handwriting matched the one in the Bible. It began, "If you are reading this, it means you have found what I prayed you would. You were never meant to be left behind, my son. I did what I had to do to save you." Nathan's vision blurred with tears. He turned the page, desperate to read more. But before he could, a sudden noise echoed from outside. Someone, or something, was moving among the trees. He froze, clutching the letter. Who was out there? A stranger, or someone who knew the truth about his past? Nathan stood completely still inside the decaying church, his breath shallow. The rustle outside grew louder, footsteps crunching leaves, then silence. He gripped the letter tighter, his heart pounding in his chest. "Who's there?" he called out. No answer, just the soft creak of a door somewhere behind him. He slowly tucked the letter and notebook into his jacket, then turned toward the noise. The church's side door was slightly open, moving gently with the wind. Nathan stepped outside, scanning the tree line. The afternoon sun was dipping low, casting long shadows across the field. Then he saw her, the old woman from the diner standing near the edge of the trees. "What are you doing here?" he shouted, walking toward her. Her face looked pale, frightened. "You shouldn't have come alone," she said softly. "There are people who still want this buried." "What are you talking about?" Nathan demanded. "Who are you?" She hesitated, her eyes glistening. "My name is Ruth. I knew your mother." The world seemed to tilt for a moment. "You... what?" "She wasn't crazy, Nathan. She didn't abandon you because she didn't love you. She was trying to protect you. From them." Nathan stepped closer. "From who?" But before she could answer, a distant engine roared. A black pickup truck appeared down the dirt road, heading straight toward them. Ruth's face turned white. "Run," she whispered. "They can't know you found the letters." He didn't move. "Ruth, what is this?" She pushed the locket into his hand. "Find the name inside. It will lead you to her." The truck skidded to a stop, dust billowing around it. Two men stepped out, both wearing dark jackets, faces shadowed. Nathan turned, but Ruth was already backing into the woods. "Go," she cried. "Don't let them take it." Without thinking, Nathan ran. He sprinted through the trees, branches whipping at his face. Behind him, he heard the men shouting, the sound of boots pounding on dry leaves. He didn't look back. After what felt like forever, he stumbled out onto a dirt path and collapsed beside a fallen log. His lungs burned, his legs trembling. The locket was still clutched in his fist. He opened it. Inside was a small photo. A young woman with kind eyes, holding a baby wrapped in a brown blanket. The same blanket he had been found in. On the other side, scratched faintly into the metal, was a name. Eleanor. The same name written in one of the Bible's margins. Nathan stared at it, his mind spinning. Eleanor. Was that his mother? And who were the men chasing him? When he finally made it back to his truck, the sky had turned orange. He drove aimlessly for miles, his thoughts a storm. Every answer led to more questions. He stopped at a gas station and pulled out the notebook he had taken from the chest. Inside were pages filled with journal entries. Desperate, trembling handwriting. They said my child was a curse, that he would expose the truth about the congregation, but I couldn't let them take him. I hid him in the cornfield and prayed someone kind would find him. Nathan's hands shook as he read. The congregation, it wasn't just a church, it was a sect, one that had ruled the region decades ago under a self-proclaimed prophet who claimed divine visions. His mother had escaped, but the group had hunted her ever since. And now, it seemed, they knew he was looking for her. Nathan looked up from the notebook. The highway stretched empty ahead, but a dark car appeared far in the distance, headlights glowing even though the sun hadn't set. They were following him. He slammed the truck into gear and sped off, dust rising behind him. He didn't know where he was going, only that he had to find Eleanor before they found him. Who were these men protecting the past? And was Nathan's mother still alive? Or just a memory buried beneath 30 years of secrets? The night swallowed the road ahead as Nathan's old Chevy tore through the backcountry, its headlights cutting narrow tunnels through the dark. His pulse raced in rhythm with the hum of the engine. He kept glancing in the rear-view mirror. The black car was still there, distant but steady. He gripped the steering wheel tighter. "Come on, old girl," he muttered to the truck. "Don't fail me now." Finally, after nearly an hour, he spotted a small sign by the roadside. "Welcome to Hollow Creek," the same name that appeared several times in his mother's notebook. He turned down a gravel path and followed it toward the hills until he saw a flickering light in the distance, an old roadside motel, barely standing. He pulled in behind the building, cut the engine, and sat in silence. The dark car passed by on the highway minutes later, its headlights fading into nothing. Nathan exhaled shakily. Inside the motel room, he spread everything he had on the bed: the Bible, the letters, the notebook, and the locket. He turned on the single lamp by the bed, its light buzzing softly. One of the letters from the church had been written by someone else, not his mother. The name signed at the bottom was Pastor Abel. The letter read, "Eleanor refused to accept the Lord's revelation. She took the child before the cleansing could be completed. She will pay for her defiance." Nathan felt sick. He flipped to the next page in the notebook. "If they ever find this, it means I've failed to protect him. But if he ever reads it, Nathan, my love, find the woman named Ruth. She knows where I went." He froze. Ruth, the woman from the diner, the one who'd saved him. She was telling the truth all along. But how did she know he'd be searching now, 32 years later? As the thought struck him, there was a soft knock at the door. Nathan's heart jumped. He grabbed the notebook and stuffed it under the pillow. He opened the door slightly and saw Ruth standing there, drenched from the rain. "You found the notebook," she said, her voice trembling. "Then it's time you know everything." Nathan let her in. She moved slowly, like every step cost her strength. She sat at the edge of the bed, eyes distant. "I was there the night you were born," she whispered. "Your mother, Eleanor, was my closest friend. We grew up in that church. But when the prophet began preaching about purification through sacrifice, she wanted out. She tried to expose them, but they called her a sinner. They were going to take you away, to offer you as proof of their devotion." Nathan stared at her, horrified. You're telling me they wanted to kill me? Ruth nodded, tears in her eyes. She ran before dawn. I helped her get to the cornfields outside Havenbrook. She told me she'd rather the world think she abandoned you than see you taken by them. The weight of her words crushed him. For the first time in his life, Nathan didn't feel anger. He felt grief and awe and love for a woman he had never met, but who had given up everything for him. Where is she now? He asked, barely able to speak. Ruth hesitated. She survived the escape, but she couldn't come back. The congregation never stopped looking. She changed her name, moved from town to town. Last I heard, she was living under the name Grace Nolan, somewhere near Cedar Falls. Nathan's heart pounded. Then I have to find her. Ruth reached into her coat and pulled out a small pendant, identical to the one he had found in the chest. She gave me this, she said. She told me when the time was right, I'd know who to give it to. Nathan took the pendant, his fingers brushing hers. Why now, Ruth? Why after all these years? Her eyes filled with tears. Because I'm dying, Nathan. And because the prophet's followers. They've found her again. He felt the blood drain from his face. What? They'll do anything to keep the past buried. But you can stop them, with what's written in her letters. The truth will destroy them. Nathan packed everything into his bag. Then I'm not wasting another second. Ruth smiled weakly, touching his arm. She never stopped praying you'd find her. As he walked out into the rain, the pendant cold in his palm, Nathan felt something he hadn't felt in years. Purpose. The road ahead might be dangerous, but for the first time, he knew who he was fighting for. Behind him, Ruth watched from the doorway, whispering a prayer as lightning flashed across the Iowa sky. Nathan was finally close. But with the congregation hunting both him and his mother, would he reach her in time? The rain didn't stop for hours. Nathan drove north through the storm, his headlights cutting through sheets of water as thunder rolled across the dark Iowa sky. Every mile brought him closer to Cedar Falls, and to the woman who had sacrificed everything for him. The pendant lay on the seat beside him, glowing faintly each time lightning flashed. He held it like a compass, as if it somehow knew where to lead him. By dawn, the storm had passed. The sky was pale gray when Nathan pulled into a small neighborhood at the edge of town. Modest homes lined the street, each with tidy gardens and faded porches. He parked near a small white house with blue shutters, the address Ruth had written on a napkin before he left. For a long moment, he just sat there. His hands trembled against the steering wheel. 32 years of questions, pain and longing, all leading to this door. Finally, he got out and walked up the steps. He knocked softly. The door opened just a few inches. An elderly woman stood there, her silver hair pulled back neatly, her eyes sharp and cautious. "Can I help you?" she asked. Nathan's throat felt dry. I think you can. My name is Nathan." Her expression changed. The color drained from her face. She stepped closer, her eyes filling with tears. "Nathan," she whispered. "My God. Nathan." He didn't need confirmation. He saw it in her face. The same gentle eyes from the Lockett's photo, older now but unmistakable. "Mom?" She reached out, her hand trembling as it touched his cheek. "You're alive. You found me." Nathan couldn't hold it in anymore. He pulled her into his arms, and for the first time in his life, he felt complete. They both cried, tears for the years lost, for the nights of wondering, for the prayers finally answered. After a long silence, Eleanor, now Grace, invited him inside. The house was small and quiet, filled with the scent of old books and lavender. On the table lay another Bible, open to the same verse that had guided him all along. "The truth will set you free." She explained everything. How she had escaped the sect after discovering their cruel intentions. How she had left him in the cornfield because she knew they were coming for her that night. And how she had spent the rest of her life hiding, sending coded messages through Ruth and others who still believed in good. "I thought if I left you a trail," she said softly, "you'd find the truth one day, when it was safe." Nathan nodded. "But they're still out there, Mom. They're looking for you." Eleanor looked down at her hands. "I know. But you have the letters now. Those are their confessions. The ones Pastor Abel wrote before everything burned. They can't hide forever. Before Nathan could respond, a loud knock echoed through the house. Eleanor froze. They found us. Nathan grabbed her hand and pulled her toward the back door, but a calm voice came from outside. "Mrs. Nolan, we're with the police. We need to talk." He hesitated, opening the door cautiously. 2 officers stood in the rain, badges visible. One of them handed him a folder. "We received an anonymous tip last night," the officer said, "about a cult operating under the name Havenbrook Fellowship. These letters confirm everything." Nathan opened the folder. Inside were the letters he'd found in the church, photocopied. Someone had already delivered them. Ruth. He swallowed hard, emotion swelling in his chest. Even in her last moments, she had protected them. By evening, the news spread. The Havenbrook congregation's leaders were arrested on charges of abuse, fraud, and kidnapping. The town that once whispered about the boy from the cornfield now spoke his name with awe, Nathan Jenkins, the man who uncovered decades of secrets and reunited a mother and son separated by faith and fear. A few days later, Nathan and Eleanor stood in the same field where his life had begun. The corn rustled gently around them, golden under the afternoon sun. "This is where it all started," Nathan said quietly. Eleanor nodded. "And where it all was saved." He handed her the locket. "You kept me alive before I even knew who I was. Thank you for that." She smiled through tears. "No, my son. God did. He led you home." They stood there together, letting the wind wash away years of pain. The sky opened above them, vast, endless, and full of light. Nathan finally understood what the message in the Bible had meant all along. The truth will set you free. It wasn't just about uncovering the past. It was about forgiving it. Sometimes the answers we seek are not about where we came from, but about who we become when we face the truth. Would you have had the courage to search for your past like Nathan did? Tell us your thoughts below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this story if it touched your heart.